Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm an author and YouTuber and speaker about mind body health, wellness, self empowerment, self actualization, self realization. And today, with Chat with the Author, we're going to be talking about this book, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, an integrative approach to healing the 7 deadly lifestyle diseases. I published this book in 2017, I believe. It was either 2017 or 2018. And this book I'm super passionate about. It's one of the books that is not as well known as some of my other published books, but it is no less important to me and to my mission and my message. And so I'd like to talk to you about it today, whether you happen to stop by live on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, or whether you are watching this on replay. So I really want to talk about this book. I want to talk about what's going on. Why are people so sick? Why do we seem to see an increase in illnesses of late? And I would say of late, the last 30 years, 35 years, around that, there has been so much happening in the way of sickness and illness. And I want you to know that that is not the norm. That's absolutely positively not normal. It is not normal for the human body to get sick. It is the furthest thing from normal. The human body's natural state is a state of health, wellness, and vitality. And we are trained through our societal conditioning to believe that illness is the norm, that it is more normal, that we should expect to get sick, that we should expect to get more sick as we grow old. And that is absolutely positively not at all the case. The human body wants wellness. The human body is constantly working toward wellness, and its natural state is vibrant health. So if you are interested in learning my philosophy, my theory on this, and the research that I did while researching this book, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, and all the things that I did is looking at medicine, the Western medical model historically, how it started. And I have a whole history of that in the book, and what ancient medicine looked like. And of course, many of you know I wrote the book, The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, an easy guide to a healthy lifestyle, which is all about this 5,000-year-old medical system from India, ancient Ayurvedic medicine. And in this book, I also address Chinese medicine, which is also an ancient medical system. I talk about homeopathy as well, which is a little later on in the scenes when homeopathy was discovered. And in fact, at the same time that the Western model, which if you study the history of the Western model, it's not a pretty picture. The Western model of medicine in the 1800s basically killed more people than saved people. And George Washington died of Western medicine and what Western medicine prescribed to him in order to heal. And in fact, it killed him, and it killed many, 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 many people. And it continues to kind of do that to today. We just don't want to talk about it. So let's talk a little bit about health, wellness, sickness, and illness, and why I really believe that we are being programmed to believe in more sickness than is necessary or is reality, and how we have come to these self-fulfilling prophecies of sickness, that we've really evolved through social conditioning to the belief in that we must become sick at some point, that we must get colds and flus, and everybody's going to get cancer or heart disease or high blood pressure or diabetes. We're really conditioned this way. Now, if you don't believe me, if you think that I'm just spouting off a bunch of BS, that is okay. That is perfectly right. But in order to backtrack to get to where we are now, I'd like to backtrack to something that most people are aware of. So whether you lived through the 1950s and 60s, or whether you've seen pictures of family members in the 1950s and 60s, or if you've watched movies or TV series that are supposed to have taken place, right, in the 1950s or 60s, you know that most people throughout the 1950s and 60s smoked cigarettes. Most people did. It was really rare the person who did not smoke cigarettes. And you might be wondering why. Why is it that so many people in the 1950s and 60s smoked cigarettes? Well, one of the main reasons was that it was socially acceptable. And it was also socially acceptable to advertise smoking as something sexy, as something wanted. You know, there was the Marlboro Man, and every man wanted to be manly. And so smoking cigarettes was a status symbol. Of course, it was addictive after that, but the starting of smoking in the 1950s and 60s, and it really probably started with the war when men were given cigarettes while they were in World War II. They were serving in World War II. But it was this status symbol. It was this symbol of acceptance in society as a man. And even it was advertised toward women in the 1950s and 60s as, you know, take a break from the kids, have a cigarette. There was this sexiness, like Virginia Slims was made for women. And so women even smoked during their pregnancies. And one of the reasons why nobody knew the health trials and tribulations of smoking cigarettes. Nobody knew that smoking cigarettes killed you until much later. But it was really accepted in society. It was right in your face. Most people smoked. And in fact, when I arrived in France in 1990, in France, it was still really socially accepted to smoke absolutely everywhere. And again, most people smoked in France in 1990. It carried on a little bit later than it did in the United States, but that was the socially accepted thing to do, and therefore most people did it. So the advertising campaigns that took place in the 50s and 60s around cigarette smoking made it so that most people in societies, in Western societies, especially in the United States, they smoked cigarettes. And then it wasn't until perhaps the mid 70s that things started to turn around when doctors started talking about how smoking can give you lung cancer and other types of cancer, and that smoking can kill you, and secondhand smoke is not great for you or others of the kids, and it's not great during pregnancy. So it really wasn't until people started speaking up against the concept of smoking that smoking became a thing of the past. And of course, it also came with a ban on advertising. And so once cigarette companies weren't allowed to conduct TV ads, radio ads, or magazine ads touting cigarettes as something that you should buy, that's when we began to see the reduction of smoking in society. So I outlined this for you to tell you about what's going on today, and that we are in this general hypnosis about Western medicine and about pharmaceuticals, medicines. And the reason I talk about that, because in this book, Enlightened Medicine, The Power to Get Well Now, I talk about your body as a force for wellness, because your body is a force for wellness. We're just not taught that. We are not taught that our bodies are a force for wellness. So let me give you an example. When you're young and you're sick, your mother fusses over you, or maybe your father or grandmother fusses over you. But in fact, somebody is fussing over you, saying you got to take this medicine and this cough syrup and this medicine, and you got to do this and you got to get better, which is great. That's a great thing, right? But an even better thing is a mother, father, grandmother talking to that child, saying your body has the power to heal itself. So while you might need to take this antibiotic or take this cough syrup, your body has the innate capacity to heal itself. Your body is powerful. Your body is strong. And then that child grows up with a belief system that their body's natural state is health, which your body's natural state is health, right? Your body's natural state is health. We're just not taught that. We're not taught that as kids. We're not taught that as adults. And so we tend to grow up with this thinking that the doctor knows best. The pharmaceutical companies know best. Other people know best about my physical body, but I don't know best about my physical body. My physical body is just a mystery to me. When in fact, for centuries and centuries before modern medicine was invented, which it was invented around 250 years ago, so not very long ago, for centuries and centuries and centuries before that, there were complete mind, body, soul systems of medicine which integrated the body's natural healing capacities along with things like plant medicine, meditation, yoga, tai chi, qigong, and the rhythms of the earth being in alignment with nature. So all of these things that brought about your body's natural capacities to heal existed long before Western medicine existed. And it's something that we don't tend to look at. Now, while we might be fascinated by acupuncture, acupressure, massage, herbal medicine, we might be fascinated. Most people don't quite believe that it works, or they might do it in hopes that it might work. But then for the real deal, they turn to Western medicine for the healing. They turn to their doctor, blood tests, MRIs, x-rays, ultrasounds to find the real deal, to search and find. Well, here's the thing. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Now, I'm bringing that story about the cigarette ads in the 50s and 60s back around. Lately, I was watching a show on Amazon Prime, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. It's called The Marvelous Amazing Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, something to that sort. I just started watching it. But in between, there are ads because I have Amazon Prime, but Amazon Prime has started to insert ads into their shows. And I kid you not, 3 out of the 4 ads are for some type of prescription pills. Now, this has been going on for quite some time, but it's just disturbing that that is thrown in your face. And it's not only there that it is thrown in your face. It is very likely that if you're watching this YouTube video and the fact that I happen to be talking about modern medicine at all, it is quite possible that YouTube throws up some ads from pharmaceutical companies. And that is not my intention. It's just what tends to happen. And then you open up magazines and there are prescription pill ads. And then you look at billboards, and billboards are advertising prescription pills and medical centers and cancer centers and heart disease centers. And so as we are inundated with our sensory input, because even if you're not focused on it, your body and mind are still perceiving it because we still see things, we still hear things. Even if we're not entirely focused on it, we're taking in a lot more information than we have the capacity to focus on in that particular moment. So day in and day out, every single day, no matter what you are looking at, whether you are looking at social media or YouTube or Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever it happens to be, whether you are driving down the street and the billboards are coming into your peripheral vision, talking about the medical system and medical centers and hospitals and dialysis centers and cancer treatment centers and all of that, it is constantly being put into your senses. And as I mentioned, where your focus goes, energy flows. And so it's not as if you want to think about cancer or you want to think about kidney failure or you want to think about diabetes or heart disease or depression or anxiety. It's that it is constantly being thrown at you. It is being thrown at all of us, each and every one of us. It is constantly being thrown at us. And so because this has been happening for years and years, and because we have grown up in societies where we are taught not to trust our bodies can't be trusted. You know what can be trusted? MRIs, x-rays, CAT scans, biopsies, the doctor, the surgeon, those are the people that can be trusted. But your body, you can't trust your body. You can't know if your body is healthy. There's no way you could know that. How could you know that? And so we're taught to not trust in our sense of well-being. We're taught to not trust in our sense of self and knowing our bodies and knowing if we are doing well and healthy and vibrant and whole. We're not taught to trust in that. We're taught to always look outside. So now we have a lot of fear. We have a lot of fear that, oh my God, I don't know if my body has this or that or disease. I don't know. The doctor might know. The blood test might know, but I don't know. So then we're starting with this fear, which fear in and of itself creates disease. Then we have this fear, and now we're like, oh my God, I have to do this test and get this checkup and that checkup and get this vaccine and preventative stuff, because what's going to happen? I don't know my body. Maybe there's something there. And then we turn on our device and there it is, an ad for a prescription, whatever. So that is reinforcing that fear of not knowing your body. And then it just snowballs, right? Because then you get into this mental game with yourself. And the mental game is such disconnect from your own self, from your own body, from your own sense of well-being into, oh my God, what if I need that prescription pill? What if I need that blood test? What if I need that MRI? What if I need that ultrasound? What if I need that biopsy? What if I need that chemotherapy? What if I need that radiation? And it just snowballs. So then you get into a state of panic and fear, and it snowballs into more. And then you're feeling less and less and less well. So that's what we've come to in this general hypnosis in this particular case in time. And what I noticed when I was watching this show on Amazon Prime was that it's very difficult to tune it out. You can put on mute, but the images are still there. The words are still there on the screen. You could perfectly well walk out of the room, but how many of us actually do? So the answer to that is to begin to commune with your body in order to connect with your body, in order to know your body well from the inside out. And that is what mind-body health is all about. No one knows you better than you. No one on this planet knows your body better than you do. Not a doctor, not a nurse, not a surgeon, not your husband, not your wife, not your mother. Nobody knows your body better than you do. And if you don't, it's time to start paying attention, because your body will give you signs and signals that it's not doing okay. And when you're really tuned into those signs and signals before disease can erupt, then you can do something lifestyle related to correct it. Now, the reason why I named this book The Integrative Approach to Healing the 7 Deadly Lifestyle Diseases is because lifestyle disease is 90%, I was going to say 9, I don't know what I was going to say, is 90% preventable. What does that mean? 10% is chance, 10% is God, force, whatever you want to call it, right? We just don't know sometimes. Sometimes these things occur, but 90% of it is lifestyle related. So it is directly related to what you do or don't do. It's directly related to your environment. It's directly related to the choices that you make day in and day out every single day, which is great news. It's great news, right? Because that means the control is back into your hands. And we are not taught that either. We're not taught that. We're not taught that, yeah, you might have heart disease, but heart disease can be reversed. Yes, you might have high blood pressure, but you can reverse high blood pressure. You can reduce cholesterol levels. So we're not taught these things. We're taught take a pill. We're taught it's genetic, which is the biggest load of bullcrap ever. You have a unique set of genes. Yes, your genes come from mom and dad, but it's a unique makeup. You are a unique makeup. And so if you believe that you're just doomed to failure and death because of your genes, nothing could be further from the truth, because genes must be activated in order to go back to a certain genetic thing. right? Especially when related to lifestyle. Okay, we're talking specifically about lifestyle diseases and certain types of cancer. And so when we talk about taking back your power and taking back your control, it's about being really mindful with your body to understand when you are starting to go out of balance. Now, you know some of the simple things, and usually the simplest things are the most impactful. If you haven't been sleeping, if you only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, if you're burning the midnight oil and getting up early for work the next day or to take care of your kids, chances are your health will improve if you get a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, right? That's easily rectifiable. If you know you haven't been eating well or eating too much sugar or eating high fatty fried food diet, you know that things can be pretty easily rectified if you were to switch up your diet. So there are a fair amount of things that are really within the realm of control, and they're really powerful. We overlook them because they seem really simple. But usually the solution is a lot easier than we make it out to be. We look at the really complex first when usually the answers are a lot more simple. For example, if you get tons of headaches, it's likely you're really dehydrated. So drinking more water throughout the day will likely help reduce the effects of a headache. There's just such simple steps that we can actually take by eating organic foods to reduce the amount of chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides that you are ingesting in your body, which really do have a large impact on your health and well-being. So looking at it from a very simple standpoint, and in fact, in previous generations, people lived a lot more simply. And as they lived more simply, and we're talking about food, water, what they consumed, right? A reduction in chemical foods, that they were a lot healthier as a result. They took walks outside. They spent more time in the fresh air and nature, in the sun, and less time indoors. For example, they got up and they walked places rather than drove places. They rode bikes. So when we look at lifestyle choices, and then we look at what is happening with lifestyle disease, we can quickly see the correlation there. And one final note that I really want to make to you, and I know this has been a bit of a rant, and I want to welcome anyone who has joined this conversation with me. When we really think about knowing our bodies versus trusting the medical professionals to know the answers for our own bodies, and I'm not saying that that isn't valuable in certain situations, because of course it's valuable in certain situations. And that's why the book is called Integrative Health. That's why this book is called Integrative Health, right? It's not about one is better than the other, although I do believe there are certain things that are better than the other. But it's about integrating the best of both worlds, the best of ancient medicine and modern medicine, and kind of finding the good points in each of those to be able to optimize your health and well-being. But one thing that I did mention in the book was the fact that we put so much faith and trust in doctors who are actually people. Yes, educated in their field people, but they're people nonetheless. And the fact that you as a person are more than a body, you are more than a physical body with flesh and bones and whatever, right? All the things that you have inside of you. But you're a person. You're more than the flesh and bone body that you are. And there are so many factors that come into health and well-being, and not only the physical body. You have your mind, you have your emotions, you have your will, you have your personality, you have your environment, you have your soul. There's so much more to you than just this physical body. And when you are visiting a healthcare professional and they are just looking at numbers, they're not looking at you. Usually they're looking at a chart or a computer. They're really not looking at you. They might check you over, but they're looking for something. They're not looking at you. And so they're making an assessment based on very, very, very little information, very little information. And when we look at it like that, I would put more measured faith in the doctor, physician, the nurse practitioner, the physician's assistant that is looking at you and what they say. Because most people would take what their physician says like gospel truth. And what I've learned over the years is that it's not wise to look at it as gospel truth. It's good to consider, for sure. It is good to consider. It's always good to consider a second opinion and a third opinion as well. But it's really essential that you go back to your knowledge of self, because that doctor is not walking around in your shoes every day. They are likely to not even know who you are. With the changes in jobs and HMOs and medical coverage, we often change doctors every year, every 2 years, maybe every 3 years, maybe every month, depending on if somebody loses their job. Now they lose their healthcare coverage, then they're getting new healthcare coverage, and then you got to go to this other doctor because the other doctor's not covered. And so truly, we're not in the days where we're in a small village where everybody knows everybody and there's one village doctor and that doctor comes to your house for dinner, which I can imagine is never the case if you're living in the Western world. Then they don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know the choices you're making each day. They don't know how your mood is. They don't know your mind and emotions. They don't know how you're processing information. So it's really important that you know yourself, you know your body's healing capacities, and that you look at the medical system and medical doctors in the Western model as a tool. It's a tool, but it's not the tool. And when you look at it like that, you can make better choices for yourself and for your health, rather than being so indoctrinated in this culture where medicine is king, pharmaceuticals are king, and that everybody is doing it and everybody is taking them and everybody goes to see their doctor at least once a week or once a month. And that everybody takes these prescription pills, and some people take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is relatively common in today's day and age. And that we don't tune into our bodies because, in part, the prescription pills we take don't allow us to even listen to our bodies, because there are so many side effects to these things that we become extremely disconnected from our bodies. So what I'm asking you to do through this, the education of this book and the education that I brought to you today, is to ask more questions, to get really in tune with your body, to trust your body more, to look at your body. And this is what I say each and every day. I say my body is a healing machine, because it is. Your body is a miraculous thing. It is so miraculous. Look what happens when you cut yourself. Look at all the stages, and I wrote that in the book too. Look at all the stages that your body has to go through just to repair that wound. It knows what to do all by itself. You don't have to tell it what to do. It knows exactly what to do. So if we can become more instinctual like the animals around us, right? If a cat has a bellyache, that cat's going to try to eat some grass to alleviate its tummy ache, right? It knows what to do because it's instinctual. So if we can get back to our inner instincts, our inner gut, knowing ourselves and knowing our body, being so connected to our body, we will no longer live in fear, and we will no longer become frightened and in panic mode and thinking we have to get every test under the sun, and that we have to maybe take this prescription pill and this one and this one and this one and this one because our doctor tells us to, but really asking more questions, getting more answers, and then comparing that with how you feel, because that is most important. No one can tell you how you feel based on a blood test or by an MRI. You know how you feel if you are connected to yourself. And that's what I would encourage you to do each and every day. And this is only the beginning of the conversation, only the beginning of the conversation. What I would love to see in my lifetime is what happened with those cigarette ads from the 1950s and 60s. I would love it if pharmaceutical companies were no longer able to advertise at all anywhere, and that medical centers and dialysis centers and cancer treatment centers were not allowed to advertise anywhere, and that we would not know of these things, because then we could focus on other things and we could place our focus on wellness and well-being and not be inundated by reasons why we should be sick. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here today, whether you're joining me now here live or on replay. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Now, I want to say something to you if you are watching this, that I will be doing some book giveaways at my Chat with the Author. And unfortunately, because of cost, I can only send them to people who live in the United States. So if you decide to come on to Chat with the Author and stay with me until the end, it's a 30-minute Chat with the Author, that I will pick someone and I will send you a book, the book I happen to be talking about that day, for free, just for listening. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Thanks so much for subscribing, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.